From analog.
Hi, Jim. You've a great signal up here. You're 5.9 plus.
Digital.
We are everywhere you want to be. This is the CQ Blind Hams Podcast.
Welcome to CQ Blind Hams, where we talk about anything and everything that is of interest to blind amateur radio operators. I'm pleased to have a follow-up visit with our friend joestephen, one of the wonderful programmers of the accessible GD77 and GD77 S projects that have been so helpful to many in our community. So I'm joined here by Joel, as well as Chris, and of course Joseph. So let's see. I'll send it over to Joel. I guess he can get the conversation going.
Sure, Julian, thank you. Yeah, we had such great updates. You know, from the last podcast, we asked Joe to do a couple of upgrades, new features to the 77S. So Joe thought it would be a good time to come back on and explain some of them. And we have Chris Miller, NE5V, along with us today, which is he's a heavy user of the 77S. Along with a lot of us. I was trying to tell Joe last time, Chris, how many 77S's that I thought was in use. What would you say? At least 50, maybe in the community?
I don't know. I was thinking more like 30 to 40, but there's a bunch of them. And there's a bunch of them that are, well, mine is occasional. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily say heavy, but I pull it out a lot of times just to make sure I'm still familiar with everything. And then there's a few that I know who have put it aside. And when I told them about these updates, they said, oh, I think I'm going to pick that radio up again and see what happens, you know.
Exactly. And
so we might have others.
And we got a few guys that's the only one to have. We mentioned a few of them on the podcast last time. But Joe, tell us what you have been up to. I'm sure you haven't got much done, have you?
Good evening to you. It's good morning to me. So someone asked me to do a virtual keypad on a radio that doesn't have a keypad. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting idea. Who would use it? But I'm surprised how useful it actually is. So the GD77 S, I got stuck into it when I had a few spare moments. And I managed to add a virtual keypad mode, which allowed you to dial a DTMF string. And I thought, well, what's the use of that? Why don't we extend it to enable you to enter an arbitrary frequency? And then I thought, well, if you enter an arbitrary frequency, you kind of need to set the mode. And then if you set the mode, then you kind of need to add the ability to set a CTCSS or a DCS tone. And then I thought, well, since we've come this far, we may as well go the whole hog and add a VFO so that you can save all these settings and then come back to them and even write them to a memory on the GD77S. And then after I did that, I thought, well, we've come this far, I might as well bring the auto zones feature over as well. So the GD77S now is a totally different radio. I mean, in my opinion, I think this is the biggest update since the GD77S has come about, because it's almost as powerful as a GD77 with a full keyboard. Not quite, but it's getting there. And so I thought we might demonstrate some of these features today if you're interested in hearing about them.
Shoot, yeah. Let's let her go.
Okay, so the first thing we'll do, Chris, if you like, is just turn on the radio, and we will hit the orange key until we get to the keypad.
All right, I'll
menu.
turn this on. I'm on my all-star node. I don't guess it matters, does it? Oh, well, anyway, here we go. I'm on the channels mode at the moment.
Zone A-N-A-L-O-G-1. Power mode. Power 50 milliwatts. Keypad mode 0.
There's the keypad mode.
So now we're at keypad mode. So keypad mode, what happens is we commandeered the channel button to be able to change the, or to choose a letter, which we're going to insert into a virtual buffer, if you like. And the letters go from 0 to 9, and then A, B, C, D, and then star and hash, because they're all the DTMF letters and numbers and symbols that you can dial. So what you can do now is if you turn your channel knob, Chris, we'll hear the letters that you can choose.
Okay, it's on 0, which is the very left one. So I'm going to go to the next channel and go back and then start up.
1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, star, hash.
There we are.
So these, we haven't added anything to the buffer yet. What we've done is we have changed or used the selector to choose a letter. So now what you can do is you can add a letter or a number to a buffer. So what's a repeater that you've got in range over there? Is there one? I've got one over here I could demonstrate, but I don't know that my microphone would pick it up.
We have 2 all-star notes.
Let me see if I can demonstrate it too. Because what I might do, I'll just show you how easy this is. So
Channel 2, R, J, G.
Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Zone mode, zone. Power mode, 5 watts. Keypad mode, 0.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've gone to keypad mode. I'm going to choose 1.
0, 1.
So and now I'm going to hit SK1 to add that to the virtual buffer.
1.
Now I'm going to choose 4.
4, 4.
I've added that to the virtual buffer with SK1. Now I'm 7.
7, 7.
Add that, and now I'm going to go down to 0.
0.
And I'm going to hit the SK1 3 times.
0, 0, 0.
Actually, I'm going to add it 2 more times
0,
because you have to do the kilohertz as well. Now I'm going to go type 146,400. So
1, 1.
So
2, 3, 4.
SK1 to add
4.
6,
6, 6.
and then
4,
4.
4, 0.
Now SK1 again.
0, 0.
I press it twice. Now I'm going to hold down the orange key.
Receive 147.0 megahertz. Transmit 146.4 megahertz.
So I've just programmed in my local repeater, and if I press my TX key now, you'll hear the repeater tail, and someone else has just responded. So I've just programmed an arbitrary repeater just like that. So now what I can do is I can come out of keyboard mode for a bit.
Scan mode. Scan off. Channel 1. Filter mode. BTMF economy level mode. Auto zone mode. Channel mode. 1, 4.
Back to
5,
channel
7.
mode, and I can just choose any old channel.
Channel 1.
Now I'm going to go back to keyboard mode.
Zone mode. Power mode. Keypad mode. 0.
And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the buffer with long hold SK2, and I'm going to type in A.
7. A.
And I'm going to hit SK1 to add that to the buffer.
A.
And now I'm going to hit hold orange key.
Receive 147.0 megahertz. Transmit 146.4 megahertz.
And what I've done is I have recalled the VFO settings that I just saved before. And now I'm back at my local repeater again. And now what I can do is I can save these values to a channel. So what I'm going to do now, I'll just make sure my buffer's clear with long hold SK2, and I'm going to do A16.
B. A.
So A, so SK1.
A.
Now
4,
choose
0,
1
1,
and
5, 6,
6.
6.
And now I'm going to hold down orange key.
Copy the F of the channel. 1, 6.
So now I can exit the keypad mode.
Scan mode. Scan
And I
off.
can,
Channel 1. Channel 1, 6.
I'm going to choose channel 16, and I'm going to hold SK1 to demonstrate that this is now pointing at my new channel.
1, 6. Receive 147.0 megahertz. Transmit 146.4 megahertz.
So there you go. It's saved the VFO to channel 16. I can turn the radio off and turn it back on
Channel 1, 6.
and double check.
1, 6. Receive 147.0 megahertz. Transmit 146.4 megahertz.
I can go to another arbitrary channel, say
7, 3.
channel 7.
Channel 6.
Channel 6. All right. Now I'm going to go back to keypad mode and see if my VFO is still intact, even though I've rebooted the radio.
Zone mode. Power mode. Keypad mode. 0.
So right now the keypad is empty. If by the way, if you want to repeat the keypad, you hold long hold SK1. There's nothing there. So I'm going to now do A.
A. Scan mode.
Whoops, sorry, wrong one.
Economy autos channel mode.
I pressed the orange key instead of the SK1 key.
Zone mode. Zone 1. Power mode. 5 watts. Keypad mode. A.
There we go. Keypad mode A. So I hit SK1 to add it to the buffer.
A.
And now long hold orange.
Receive 147.0 megahertz. Transmit 146.4 megahertz.
So there we go. I've recorded the VFO again. So just to summarize, what you can do is that the virtual buffer is remembered when you exit scan mode. Keypad mode and go back in. But it doesn't mean that what's in the buffer has been transferred to the VFO until you press the long hold orange key. It's just like a temporary storage place for characters. So you clear it with long hold SK2, you add to it with SK1, and you can backspace with a short SK2. So I'll go through that again. So add with SK1, repeat the whole buffer with long hold SK1, backspace with SK2, or clear with long hold SK2. And of course, you select your characters with your selector knob. Another thing I can demonstrate is the DTMF thing. So instead of pressing and holding the orange key to act upon the command, you could just do a string. Like I can do let me clear. Now I can do star
77423.
So I'll just repeat that buffer.
Star 73.
And now I can hit PTT, and it will dial that DTMF string star 73. So basically, whatever's in the buffer, you can either act upon it as a command or a frequency with long hold orange, or you can transmit it as DTMF tones by hitting the PTT. The commands that we support currently are as follows. A will recall the last VFO and make it current, so you can make more settings. So what you do is you'd clear your buffer, you'd select A, and then you press long hold orange. That will recall your VFO. But if you want to then save that VFO to a channel, you would clear your buffer, you would do A, then you would do a number between 1 and 16, and then long hold orange. So A by itself recalls VFO. A1 to A16 followed by long hold orange will save to a channel. B, let me show you B, what that does. I'll clear, I'll select B.
9C, B.
And I'll add that.
B.
Now long hold orange.
Bandwidth 12.5 kilohertz.
I can press and long hold orange again since the buffer's still there.
Bandwidth 2.5 kilohertz.
So did you notice that I didn't have to reselect the letter? It's still in the memory. I'll just repeat the memory, the keypad buffer.
B.
So long hold SK1 was just repeats what's in there. So B will change bandwidth between 12 and 25 kilohertz. We've got C, which will clear a CTCSS or DCS code, or C and a number will set a CTCSS code. So you could do C85 or C854. Let me just demonstrate that. Just clear. I'm going to choose C. C, add. 8 5 4. Just to confirm what's in the buffer. Long hold SK1.
854.
And now I'm going to hit long hold orange.
Tone 85.4 hertz.
So I've set an 85.4 hertz tone. Now that's only for TX. If I want RX and TX, you can put a star. So you can do C854 star. Let me just demonstrate that. I didn't have to clear it. I could have just added the star because it was still in the buffer, but never mind.
89A, B, C.
So again, you select with the selector, hit SK1.
C, 8855449 hash star.
Just repeat the buffer.
C854 star.
C854 star. Now if I press orange and hold it.
Tone 85.4 hertz.
I didn't actually say. Oh, I know what I'll do. If I just now save this to a channel, I'll just clear it. I'll just save this to channel 15.
A40114555.
Just repeat the buffer.
A1
A15, I'll hold orange.
Copy the F of the channel 1, 5.
Now I'm just going to go to channel 5
Channel 1, 5.
and do long hold SK1 and we'll see what it says.
1, 5. Receive 147.0 megahertz. Transmit 146.4 megahertz. Receive tone 85.4 hertz. Transmit tone 85.4 hertz.
So it told us. Did you notice that it kept the frequency because I hadn't changed that? So it's now saved the transmit RX and TX tone. So C, we were talking about the commands that are supported. So C followed by a number is a CTCSS tone. You can do D followed by a number for a DCS tone. So we've got A, B, C, D. So basically, they're the commands. You can save to memory, recall a VFO, set a CTCSS tone. Oh, there is another one, D. I didn't tell you. No, which one was it? Oh, star, of course, star. Let's just clear. I'm just going to go back into keypad mode.
VTMF, economy left, auto channel mode, zone mode, power mode,
keypad mode. I'm going to clear the buffer. I'm going to choose star. Now, add that. Now you listen to this. If I long hold orange.
Mode, DMR.
And now I can press long hold orange again.
Mode, FM.
So you can switch between DMR and FM just by doing star. And here's another one you can do. I'll clear that. If we choose hash
0.0 megahertz.
Oh, that's because, hang on, let me just clear that. Let me just enter a frequency first.
50 megahertz.
I'll just go, make sure we're in DMR. That's the other thing I didn't do.
Scan mode.
Whoops. What am I doing?
Channel mode, zone mode, power mode, keypad mode.
Keypad mode, star.
DMR.
Okay, now we're in DMR mode. That's better. And we're on 145 megahertz, so I can choose hash.
Time slot 2. Scan mode.
Oops, what I was doing wrong was I wasn't holding the orange key long enough. I just go back in there.
Yeah, that's one of the pitfalls that happened to me. I got so excited about this, I got in a hurry. There is another one I found that I'll get to later.
Done it again.
You may do it.
Okay, so hash by itself will change time slot. Hash and a number will set a talk group. Hash and a number will set a private call if you want to call a particular ID. And then hash and a number will actually allow you to set the user ID of the radio. So if you want to use it as a different user, just like on the GD77 with the keypad, where you go into the contacts menu and you can hit hash to enter a talk group, hash to enter a private call, and hash to change the DMR ID of the user. The same thing works here on the GD77 S without the keypad. So you're not limited to, well, you've got the same functionality as a GD77 in terms of being able to enter talk group, private call, or change the radio ID. So,
wow, that's a lot. Man, I don't
the other thing you can do that we didn't demonstrate, which I can quickly demonstrate, is auto zones. So just to recap for your listeners, an auto zone is it's a channelized zone that is automatically added to your radio without you having to add all the channels to the code plug, which is really, really handy for things like UHF-CB, where you have 80 channels plus repeater offsets and things like that. You have to program a whole heap of stuff in. You don't have to do that. So what you can do now, similar to the GD77, is you can choose which auto zones you want active, and there's about 7 that you can have. Let me just demonstrate that.
Scan mode, filter mode, VTMF content, economy level, auto zone.
So,
off, channel 6.
Okay, so you go to the auto zone mode with the orange key. You can choose the auto zone with the SK1. So MRN is Marine, International Marine.
UHF-CB on, GMRS off, FRS off, MURS off, MOAA off, CMR 446 off, MRN
and back to marine. So the SK1 cycles through them. SK2 will turn it on or off.
MRM on.
So now marine's on.
UHFCB on.
Well, let's just do those two. So now I'm going to go to the zone mode with the orange key.
Channel mode, zone mode, zone 1.
So now when I cycle through the zones, you'll hear
MRM.
marine.
UHFCB, zone 1.
So back to zone 1. So I'm going to show you something with UHFCB because you know the GD77 S is actually limited to 16 physical channels, but you listen to this.
MRUHFCB.
So we're now in the UHFCB zone and I can choose
Channel 7, channel 6, channel 5, channel 4, channel 2, channel 1.
Okay, so there's 80 channels. How do I get to channel 17? Well, I can hold, I go to channel 1 with the physical knob and I can hold SK2 down. You listen to this.
Channel 1, 7.
So now I'm on channel 17. I hold it down again.
Channel 3, 3.
33.
Channel 4, 9.
49. So each time it jumps up by 16 channels.
Channel 6, 5. Channel 1.
So you can go through the banks of 16 channels. So I'm going to demonstrate also with the UHF CB AutoZone. If I go to channel 2, there's actually a repeater on channel 2, and I can choose duplex. I'm going to hold SK1, extra long hold.
2, 4 plus.
Plus. So now if I hit my TX button, it's probably not going to do it from here. I might have to. Did you hear the repeater tail then?
Yes.
Right. So so an AutoZone, you don't have to do any programming. You simply have to turn it on, and then it's already ready for you to use. And so you can scan in it. The only thing you can't currently do is do a dual priority watch. Unfortunately, I haven't fixed that on either the 77 or the GD77 S yet, but eventually you'll be able to do that. So you can still, on the GD77, you can jump to the priority channel because most AutoZones have one, like Marine is channel 16, UHFCB is channel 5. You can jump to that with long hold red, but of course on the 77S you don't have a keypad. I haven't added the support for that jumping to a priority channel yet for the 77S. But so if the AutoZone doesn't apply to you, you just turn it off, and then it's no longer available for cycling through with your zone keys. But as I said, we've got Marine, UHFCB, GMRS, FRS, MURS, NOAA, and PMR446, which is a UK CB band. And the beauty of AutoZones is they don't take up any memory. The channelization is done on the fly using rules and heuristics, which are in a lookup table, and so it takes up very little memory. But having said that, they're not real channels, so you can't go and save different parameters for the channel. They're hard coded. So if you want a CTCS, you can do it temporarily, but you won't be able to save it long term unless you copy that channel to VFO and then save it to a real channel, just for for modifying other parameters on.
That is awesome.
So that's AutoZones.
That's great. I used the MERS. I was in Knoxville last week, and I was at Sam's Wholesale Club, and I put it on MERS and I scanned through it. You can scan through those AutoZones that you would scan on the 77.
Yes, you can.
I'm not sure how to do it on the 77S, but I went through it, and I was at Sam's Club in Knoxville, and I started hearing all kind of stuff. They were complaining about couldn't get anyone to come to work. The manager was pushing carts. I mean, it's awesome. And then I went to a strip mall, and I was on another channel listening to a pizza place talking about, they were doing orders and complaining about the customers. I mean, it was awesome to be able to hear stuff like that, automatically programmed.
Well, the scans could work fine on the GD77S too. So you simply choose the AutoZone, and then you go to your scan mode and enable scan, and that should be fine. Apparently someone's reported a bug where you can't add a channel to the nuisance list. I will investigate that eventually when I get a chance. It looks like it should work. I'm not sure why it's not working. That's not a new bug, but it's one that needs looked at.
Chris, I think you had a feature that we were talking about before Joe got on with us.
Oh yeah, there's two things there's actually two things I wanted to talk about. I'll do the feature, and then there's a pitfall I want to mention to people, and it's not a design flaw. It's just the nature of the beast. But if I may get to that also. But the feature request I was thinking about is that orange button currently is pretty busy. It's got 9 different items on it. Is there maybe a way, right now it scrolls forward. Is there a way to make that scroll backwards as well? Say, for instance, I got in a hurry and I went to keypad mode and I skipped it. So, of course, to get to it,
people have asked for this.
Around.
It's a bit tricky because the problem with the GD77 S is the SK1 and SK2 buttons are used for choosing functions and changing values. Yeah. And so to then hijack SK2 to do hold it to add orange to go backwards is probably going to cause problems. So I have thought about it, but I don't know of an easy way of doing it. One thing I thought of doing, just for those who don't have dexterity issues, for instance, instead of long hold orange to act on a function in keypad mode, perhaps SK1 and SK2 together could be pressed to do it or something like that, just so you're not doing long hold of orange, because apparently the orange keys give way on some of these radios eventually. Yeah. So I don't know how people feel about pressing 2 keys at once to act on a function, but that is one possibility.
Okay. The other thing I thought I would mention, and it happened to me quite by accident because I got in a hurry, and it's just something I think people should be aware of. For instance, I'll give you the example. My All-Star node happens to be in channel 1, and I wanted to play with the idea of, say, programming a disconnect or just issuing a disconnect command. So, of course, I went to the virtual keyboard. I went to star. I went to 7. I went to 6. Push to talk. Everything's fine. Then I went out to channel mode again, and all of a sudden I got channel error, because there's nothing programmed in channel 6. But because of the fact that I was hitting a 6 on the virtual keyboard, when I got out, the rotary knob thought I was on channel 6, not on channel 1. So of course I had to
thank you for bringing it up.
Okay. I had to
thanks for bringing it up. It's a good time to bring it up. This is one of the physical limitations of the GD77 S, because the rotary key is a physical knob that has a stop at each end. It basically returns to the firmware 16 values for its 16 positions. And so when you exit the virtual keypad mode, you are going to be on whatever channel you are physically turned to. So it is important that if you, before you exit keypad mode, or even straight after you exit keypad mode, you move that physical knob back to the channel you expect, you thought you want to be on. That is a limitation. I discussed that with people when I implemented it, but people thought that it was a reasonable compromise, because if you don't do that, there's no other way of being able to select characters.
Well, it is, but I
just 3 buttons.
I just thought I'd mention it in case somebody did like I did and got in a hurry and wasn't thinking, and I thought, of course it's going to do that,
It's going to tell you where it is, that's for sure. And if it's in a place where there's no channel, it'll say channel error. I noticed my AutoZone, I was on MERS, and when I went to channel 6, it gave me a channel error, and I said, "What's that?" Oh, there's no channel 6 in MERS.
Yes, that is true. And there's also little things like, for instance, if you're on CB channel 80 and then you go back to a zone, I'm pretty sure I've reset the channel. If you go from something that's got a higher channel count to a zone with a lower channel count, I reset it to channel 1, so you shouldn't get that issue. But that is a limitation. Always make sure you're back on the correct channel when you leave the keypad mode.
Another thing I was curious about too, and I of course I don't have very many zones in my radio at the moment. I have only 2 zones, and I have very few channels. But say, for instance, if somebody wants to add more than 16 channels in a zone in the code plug, to get to them, does that same trick of holding down SK2 advance the channels in regular zones or just an auto zone?
That is a great question. I do want to implement that. Right now, the firmware is hard-coded for the GD77 S to only allow 16 channels. But since you can do it with the auto zones, there is no inherent reason why I can't add that for regular zones. And that would actually be quite useful, because then the code plug could be shared between the GD77 and the 77S without limitation. It's on my list of things to do, but I'm not sure quite if and when I'll get to it.
Okay, well, I know mine is right now because I have so few channels, so I share them between them. It just made me think of that. Somebody might have more than me.
The limitation, of course, is that you can only go one way through the banks, up. You can't go backwards, which is a bit of a pain. I mean, we've only got 3 keys to work with, and we're using them all.
Yeah,
but I mean,
so
the
much you do.
GD77S is, I mean, it's so much more functional than it ever used to be. So I think people there's a limit to what we can do.
Oh, it's a new radio, Joe, and you're a genius to be able to get all the functionality out of this radio.
We were talking about this earlier, and out of all of these radios, this particular one probably so far has had the most podcasts about it. I think we've figured at least 5.
This will be 8 or 7 or 8 right now. We're getting close to.
Is that the 77S or the 77?
Yes, 77S. Yeah, it's the number one podcast.
Wow. Well, there are new things coming up for the 77 I can talk about too. I am reworking the editor because currently where you enter channel name, where you enter DMR ID, where you enter private call, they're all different implementations of the edit screen. And so what I'm trying to do when I get time is unify all those things so they're all a common feel, so that you can properly edit, insert, delete, speak the characters, and things like that. So that's something I'm working on, so that it's all unified on the GD77, RD5R, DM1801.
I got something popped in my head. Where the tunes, when you turn the radio on, it plays the tunes, and we even had Chris in Canada did the little tunes. We've got them on the website. Where you turn on, it plays a different tune. Is there any way to make it say your call sign or say GD77 when you turn it on?
Yes. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. There is a boot screen. When you boot it up, there are actually 2 lines of text, and there's also a place for your call sign and your DMR ID. Now, you know that with the CPS, there's a special dialog where you can go and you can enter those things. Currently, except for the DMR ID, there's no way of editing those 3 things from the radio. Well, I just added that last night. I can demonstrate it. I haven't released it. Well, it's in beta at the moment, but if I turn my radio on,
29 FM.
I'm going to go to the menu, and I'm going to go up 1.
Information.
It's currently called information, but I'll probably add new voice prompts eventually, and I'm going to hit green.
Information menu name VK7JS.
So the first field is name. This is I could change it to call sign, but this is where you can enter your name or your call sign, which gets transmitted. So I can arrow through this.
K7JS.
You can go down 1.
DMR ID 5050360.
So there's your DMR ID. Then you've got line 1
JOE.
and line 2.
2JESUSISLORD.
So I've just got 2 lines of text in there, which show up on the boot screen. So you can edit that from the radio now. So you don't have to use a CPS. I mean, the idea is eventually we want to be able to get to a point where you don't need the CPS program at all, except to upload the firmware. So I know that OK1TE Jan in the Czech Republic, he's working on, when he gets around to it, the ability to delete a channel from the radio without having to use the CPS. And also he's working on an RSSI feature where in DMR mode, you can't hear the signal strength. And so he's working on an audio signal strength meter where you can hear by the pitch how strong a DMR signal is, so you can orient your radio to get the best signal I think it'll work in FM mode too, but it's not as useful in FM mode because you can usually hear that anyway. So there's a few things in the pipeline that are coming. I'm not sure when they're coming, but they're things that they're in process.
That reminds me of another thing that I have thought should be maybe reintegrated if possible. I don't know if it can be or should be, but originally on the original GD77 S software, a lot of the others, MD380, they have these. In the CPS, there's a thing that's called channel free beep. Now, what that does, of course, if you're on DMR, when somebody releases the key, the radio would beep. That would, of course, let you know that the DMR transmission is through. Right now, in some cases, you almost have to guess.
There is, I actually added in the main menu, there is both an FM and a DMR beep. You can enable it for the start, the end, or both.
No, this is, in other words, that's for your transmission. The one I'm talking about is for someone else's transmission.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think he means something like a courtesy tone.
Yeah, but well, all right, if you want to explain it that way, exactly, yes. But the original stock software had that feature, and it was listed as channel free.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I'll add it to the wish list.
Okay.
Well, along those lines, if we want to add to the wish list, I think it'd be kind of cool to be able to customize the transmit tone that you hear when you key your PTT.
Oh, okay. Rather than just a single beep.
Yeah.
Right. How would you envisage doing that via the code plug?
Yeah, just something almost similar to how you upload the startup tunes in the radio. Something similar to that, where you could enter values that represent the frequency, and you're going to play some little, beep beep or bitty beep or something like that.
Yeah. The problem is that there is very, very limited areas that the CPS can write to, and so that's not currently possible. So where I add new settings, they're nothing to do with the CPS, and they are saved in the memory of the radio, and even that area of memory is quite limited, and particularly with tunes, there's not a lot of scope there.
Alrighty, yeah, it's just one of those fun little doodads, but certainly not an urgent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the beta this morning that you've been working on. I haven't installed it yet, but looking forward to giving that a go. Well, anybody? I haven't added that editor to all the existing screens yet. That's going to take me a little while because I have to rewrite stuff. So, but eventually, all the editable areas will all be the same. So currently, only the new screen uses that module at the moment. Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, so how are you feeling? You injured yourself, it seems like, and I know that slowed your programming down a little bit. Are you back to speed, or are you feeling better?
The first couple of days, I couldn't do anything. I had to have help doing stuff, and then I was on crutches for a couple of days after that. But I'm off crutches, but I still get twinges, and I don't sort of venture too far outside. But it's definitely a lot better than what it was. And it's also a bit painful sitting in one spot for too long, so I have to get up and walk around a bit. But it's definitely improved a lot.
That's good. But get some rest and recover. You've done so many great strides working on the 77 S for the last few weeks. I just want everybody to know, let Joe know if you're using it. He asked that before. Let him know that you're using it and you like the features that he's added. And man, you're just awesome. Done an awesome job. Well, yeah, Chris,
thank you, and thanks for your time.
Well, I like what's happening with it, especially for those with dexterity issues, the things you managed to do here. I've got a guy that I'm actually working with now that we're going to update his because he has the use of one hand, and so that's going to make things a lot easier for him, being able to do all this stuff with one finger, so to speak.
That's a good point there. Just to demonstrate something for those with dexterity issues. One thing I added not long ago, if you haven't updated for a while, is in the options menu, when you turn on the PTT latch, let me just show you that.
29 FM. Menu. Information. So, RSS radio contact last firm options. P on. Key repeat. Filter top. Scan delay. Scan well top. Scan mode. Scan on. VHF 200 UHF TLT off. Okay, so before you enable PTT latch, you have to have a timeout timer, and that's, you've now got a master setting in the options menu. You didn't have that before, so I added that. TLT 1 5 seconds.
So I've just turned that on. Now with PTT latch off. I can turn that on.
PTT latch on.
And now exit.
29.
Now when I hit the PTT key, it will beep, so you know whether you're on or off. Before, there was no indication whether you were transmitting or not, so you didn't know, and you could be transmitting and you weren't aware of it until the timeout kicked in. So there's now, it automatically enables that beep. You can enable that beep manually for FM as well as DMR, but when you have PTT latch on, it automatically does it so that a blind person doesn't accidentally leave transmit on.
Options.
I'll just turn that off.
Options. PTT latch on. PTT latch off.
And
TLT 1 off. 29 FM.
okay.
Well, good. That's going to be a handy function for a lot of people. It seems like. Julian, you or Chris got any questions for Joe while we have him?
Well, not so much a question, but really just, again, to comment on how this breathes a whole new life into a radio that, I'm reminded of when I first got into DMR and I started doing research. What's the most blind-friendly accessible radio? And this is back in early 2020. And everything that kept coming up with is GD77 S. So naturally, that's what I got. And, then I got radios with keypads and all this other stuff, and the GD77 stuff came out. So the 77S has kind of been relegated back to a box or whatever. But in some cases, this breathes a whole new life into the radio. It makes an experience available now to people with limited functionality, especially people with motor difficulties. So, I mean, really, it's just amazing to see how the virtual keypad really is that. I mean, it really is like adding a keypad to a radio that didn't have one. It's you make it look so easy to use. It's a wonderful thing. So, I mean, I think this is a wonderful development. Kudos to you and everybody who's worked with you to achieve this. The one thing I would add here is that maybe just in case somebody stumbled across this one and didn't hear the other podcast, where does one go to find out about information on how to get their radios to do these neat things, and how does one get a hold of you if they want to send you feedback?
Okay, so you can email me at joestephen, JOESTEPHEN, joestephen at skymesh.com.au, SKYMESH.com.au. Currently, I distribute the firmware via a Dropbox link, which expires every 7 days. It'd probably be nice to eventually put that up on some website somewhere, but right now I just send out Dropbox links. Inside the archive, there is a README file. There's also a docs folder. If you go into the docs folder, there's lots of information in there. Ian's text files for describing how to upload firmware and stuff like that. But there's also an accessible GD77 file that I wrote, which describes the radio, the physical layout, and gives an introduction to the accessibility features on the radio. There's also another folder there with some other writings that I've added to the archive for those who are interested. But basically, write to me and request a link if you need it. The other thing I just want to say in closing really is, the sky is the limit with these radios. If you have a request or you find a bug, don't be satisfied putting up with it. Write to me and, we can talk about it. And if I can fix it, I will. If I can implement a feature, I will. This is our radio. This is our firmware, the blind community firmware, and the sky is the limit. I've tried again to try and communicate with the main developers of OpenGD77. I've even sent them code for the new keypad module I'm writing for the GD77. They don't appear to be interested at all in incorporating these things. So we're really on our own now. And in one way it's good, in one way it's bad, but I think it's more good than bad.
truthfully say from experience, some of the bugs can be fixed even in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, so you
I had one the other day like that.
You put bug fixes out quick. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. We can wiggle. We're going to work on maybe doing a place to maybe you got that GitHub. Do you upload to GitHub that I think I put the link in the show notes before to that GitHub that you gave me, where I can't remember the gentleman's name that actually hosts the GitHub.
Oh, yeah. Jan Heg, OK1TE. It's his GitHub repository. And if you are looking at source, there is a master branch, which is months behind, and there's the development branch, which is up to date. So that the last time the master got updated was the last time we did a major integrate from Roger. We're due to move the development to master again. So if you are looking at source code, look in the development branch because that's where all the action happened.
Is there any way we can host your packages? I guess you can't host packages like what your Dropbox has. But on GitHub, that's mainly for source. Is that correct?
Well, you probably could. I personally, I don't have time to do all the admin stuff. I barely have enough time to do the programming. And so I like to chuck the archive out to someone else and they can handle it. I'd like to do that with documentation too eventually. I just don't have time.
Well, hopefully we'll get you some help doing that. The Dropbox seems to work right now, but I don't, go ahead.
Could we do something similar to what we're doing, like with the Blind Hams text schedules and, some of these other, even the various podcasts that get dropped into a Dropbox folder?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I can put a link to that folder on blindhams.com, and then every time Joe puts a new one, he can delete the old one.
Yeah.
Will it automatically show up then, will it? Because
yes.
that would be ideal. You could just send me that would be ideal.
Yeah, we could share the Dropbox with you, Angelo. Angelo could share it with you, and then we could create a folder just saying accessible GD77 folder. And whenever you do a SGL or .bin or whatever, you could put that. We could set you up, and all you got to do is drag the old one out and put the new one in, and we're up to date. Yeah,
that would be ideal. I want to say one last thing. A very big thank you to those who do test my changes. And I know that sometimes there's several changes a day. Thank you, because if you don't test them, the bugs might not be found straight away. And I don't want to release stuff with bugs. And, my testing's limited because of time as well. So thanks to all those who do regular testing for me.
And thanks to everybody that has actually installed all the firmware and is using it, because that's what Joe's put his blood, sweat, and tears into this project for everybody to use. And the more we're using it, that gives Joe more initiative to keep doing it. And we appreciate you, Joe.
Yeah, I would say to people, it is very, very time consuming because you're writing firmware to a radio. The debugging is very, very limited. The ability to live debug is very limited, or it's not very accessible. So firmware is different to regular software. Regular software, you have a lot of tools at your disposal to find and fix issues. Doing firmware on a little device like this is very, very challenging, very, very time consuming. And sometimes it's a lot of work for a little gain. So it's really good when, we do get a lot of gain and people are happy with it.
I believe you've achieved that, my friend, and I dearly appreciate it. Well, guys, if that's about it, my dog is ready to go out, and I guess you heard Winnie barking in the background. I hope doesn't bother anybody, but I want to say thank you, Joe, and thank Chris for coming on, and Julian for doing this special time to record this, and Angelo. So I want to say 7-3 to everybody, and catch you next time on the roundtable.
7-3, everybody.
7-3. Thank you.
7-3 to all.